This is the Amp Hour Podcast. Released March 6th, 2022. Episode 580. Electrical Archeology.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
I found a part which you cannot find a replacement for. I've challenged the engineering community to find a replacement. I just released a video before this, so you had not seen it.
Is it like a riddle? It's like, all of human knowledge.
Right.
A part of my heart.
What?
I have no.
Is that a reference to something? Am I missing?
I don't know. No, I'm just saying.
No?
Like, what?
Oh, right.
It just sounds like the riddle, like that. No human could replace this one part.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Anyway,
So, what is it?
It's a lowly MOSFET. It's a lowly MOSFET. But I contend that there is only one manufacturer of said lowly MOSFET.
You got a link for me?
Oh, yeah, probably. Hang on, here we go. Is it that one? No, it's this one. This makes great. Hang on, 43. It's a 4303. And if you Google for 4303, this is why I did a 1 hour.
That's not a very easily found number, or part rather.
Okay. And here we go. You've got it now in your
got it.
googly thing. All right. It is
Sino Power Semi.
Yep.
Okay. SM. Yep. So is SM the
SM is
that's what you were searching as well?
Their prefix, is their prefix.
Got it.
Now, if you watch my video, you can actually find that equivalent part number if you search LCSC. So if you go into LCSC, which is kind of like the Asian DigiKey Mouser equivalent, they're probably...
Yeah, it's the one tied to JLC, and they basically expose some of the parts only available in the Chinese. We talked about them before, for sure.
Yep. Heaps.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else in Asia that's like trying to do the DigiKey Mouser thing?
It's interesting. So yes, I think so, but not. I don't think they get the same exposure. So I remember and not the same. They're putting some work in. They put in some work for translation and just exposure, and the data management is not a small thing either.
Mm.
I remember like looking at 21IC, and that's kind of like also like a social site. I think it was 21IC.cn.
Oh, right, one of those, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of just like a link dump kind of thing.
One of those. It's like an Asian chat forum or something, is it? It's like
it looked like a. It kind of looked like. Remember how we used to complain about the Element 14, like Jive,
the Element 14 community.
It kind of looked like that, but like with a lot of Chinese characters on it.
Right, got it. It probably used the same application, but a different language set.
It was bad in either case. Let's be honest.
Right.
There's a long throwback for listeners.
Oh that was.
It's probably episode 1 of the Amp Hour complaining about it.
Back then, Ben Heck was still doing the Ben Heck show.
That's right.
Anyway, I sent you another data sheet.
Yeah, I see
to the only equivalent like part number I could find. So this is an APM 4303, and this is from another company you've never heard of, which is VB Semi. And these are both Taiwanese companies, so Sino Power and VB Semi. I don't know it. I actually haven't been to the VB Semi website, but Sino Power, all they make is MOSFETs. That's it.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Interesting.
So anyway, this stemmed from the Aperture Amaran LED light of mine that failed, and I did a repair video on that. So this is like a spin-off video from that. And all of the MOSFETs in there are all of these Sino Power brand. So obviously the design engineer or the purchasing person there just loves the, Sino Power, right?
Well, it also could have been, depends where they are, but like
they're a Chinese. Well, it's made in China. I don't know if they're a Taiwanese company, but if they're a Taiwanese company, then I can totally understand.
But I'm guessing some of our listening audience has, worked on a design, prototyped it with, a locally available chip, and then they basically go to like a DFM process, and part of that is just like a cost down and people in the local ecosystem. So maybe you have a CM, and the CM's like, hey, we want to replace them with all these much lower cost chips. You do an eval, and you're like, yeah, that's great. Look how much cheaper that is. Holy crap. So, awesome.
And they do, like South Korea, for example, like my 121 GW multimeter is made in South Korea, right? Mm-hmm. And they go to extraordinary lengths to find parts made in South Korea. They're almost obsessed with it, right? And they'll go, "I didn't like. We need to change this part because this one we just found one."
Is it because of imports or because of?
It's a, I don't know. Is it a nationalism thing? Is it
It could
a
be. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
national security thing? Is it a culture thing? I don't know, right? But
yeah.
they go to extraordinary lengths. You wouldn't believe, like, a lot of people don't realize how huge the semiconductor industry is there. And there's all these once, like, when, Asia, we're talking about, Taiwan, China, that kind of thing. But there's South Korea. They have their own industry and their own semiconductor makers as well that make all these, obscure, semiconductors and stuff. And it's just something we don't know about yet. It's a whole industry out there. So yes, if you buy a South Korean product, it likely uses a whole bunch of South Korean parts you haven't heard of. So, or South Korean manufactured equivalent parts. Anyway, in this case, this MOSFET, right? This Sino power jobby, it sounds pretty ordinary, right? It's a 30-volt P-channel, 17 amp SO8 MOSFET, right? What's the big deal? Like 30 volts is like probably the biggest category for SMD MOSFETs, like in the biggest generic category in terms of voltage range. 17 amps is like, it's high, but it's nothing, out of the ordinary. And there's nothing special about it except that it's got ESD protection built in. So if you have a look at this internal schematic, there's some ESD protection. There's an 8 kilovolt gate protection. And that's the thing. And that's the thing. I spent a 1-hour video trying to find a replacement for this. And if you have a look at the other one I sent you, the VB Semi, that has the exact same part number, 4303, it does not have the ESD protection built in, right? So it's a very different part.
Is it possible that it's just not documented? Because I always wondered about these sort of things.
Yeah,
I kind of just assume that every input to a chip these days has ESD on it, right? Otherwise,
not on individual MOSFETs. No, that's the thing. Okay, you have to get a specific ESD variant, and a lot of all the major manufacturers, they will have like an a dash E or a dash ESD or something like that. But you can't just order any part with a dash E on the end, right? It doesn't work like that. They only make like less than a handful of parts that have built-in ESD protection. And a lot of them are like dual. They're a dual or they're a quad MOSFET designed for logic level input protection and stuff like that, So,
Interesting. So then what about the application circuit as well? So like, what is this going into that you think it did you back calculate what you think that was required for?
Yes, because it goes into a plug-in battery. There's 2 batteries on the back of this which have exposed pins. So Joe Average, who's taking out the battery, can
scuffing your feet across the carpet,
scuff their feet and touch these pins. But interestingly, the MOSFET nearest to it is also a P channel with almost the same specs, but doesn't have the ESD protection built in. So this design actually uses almost identical MOSFET, again from Sino Power.
Yeah.
It's almost identical specs, except it doesn't have ESD protection, and that's even closer to the battery terminals. So I'd love to see the schematic. I don't just, I do not.
It does make you wonder though, like if, like you had said, right? So maybe the purchasing agent just likes this part, or like I said, it's like super cheap or whatever, and it fits all the specs, but maybe it has this extra feature like ESD protection diodes.
Yep.
And it doesn't, you test it doesn't impact anything. You're like, no problem.
Of course. Yeah.
But then it gets out in the field and
right.
So in full disclosure, I've seen some of the analysis videos of some of the Keithley gear I used to work on. Yeah. And people maybe I'm talking to right now, they say, oh, well, it probably does this and this. I'm like, nope, that's not it. And it's like, but it's, there's like this institutional knowledge inside the company, which I should be clear, I did not come up with. I was just privy to it. I did not actually, I was not making up any of this, any of this design decisions. I was just, I was able to see the schematics. I was able to see all the decisions making internally. And it's like, but it does, when you then analyze it from outside, it's almost like an electronic archaeology type of thing. It's like, this culture may have decided the ESD diodes were important on the MOSFET here, but not here. Yep, they must have worshipped the ESD gods. Yep. It's just like, all right, well, but like how are we going to know unless we have the design decisions?
You've got to know the design decisions. And maybe the schematic alone isn't enough. Like there's other knowledge, insight, like they've been bitten before. Right. Exactly. Or something. And they were just covering their ass on this design. But then like, it's almost the identical MOSFET. And there's probably like a couple of cents difference maybe between the one that has the ESD and the one that doesn't. Okay, I've worked on designs where we were like, a few cents made a huge difference. But like, why you wouldn't just like if you're already decided, okay, I need the ESD part in that part of my circuit because reasons, then why wouldn't you just like consolidate right across the design,
double it up,
right? Just because, right? So yeah, it's a slight. In fact, the one it's replacing is a slightly lower rated MOSFET. So it's like, maybe they are saving a few. Maybe they're saving 10 cents. I don't know, and maybe that does make a difference. But yeah, I just
What's
thought
really
it was
crazy
odd.
is like, I mean, this thing was busted, right? This part was busted.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What if the ESD diodes caused it, Dave? What if it caused it?
No, they usually don't cause a direct.
I know, of course.
Yep. Anyway, yeah, there you go.
So are you going to try and get these parts, or are you going to just try and say,
Oh
screw
no,
it?
you have not watched my video.
I have not. No.
I dumpster dived and salvaged an old laptop, and I stole a MOSFET out of that. I stole a generic MOSFET out of that, and god damn it, it works.
Yeah,
just
great,
fine.
Great.
So I actually, so I salvaged the part. Because I did not have, like, I've got MOSFET kits here, right? And sure enough, I do not have the P channel ones are relatively rare compared to the N channels, right? So I've got some P channels, but I don't have any P channel SO8s in my kit. So I could have bodged in like a D pack or something.
Yeah, SO8 with the 3-pin source and the 1-pin gate and like all that.
The 3-pin source and the 4-pin drain and the 1 gate. Yep. Standard SO8 package. Non thermal.
I do prefer this configuration. I feel like these are super easy to like figure out, maybe not figure out, but
exactly.
When I'm designing in something like this that has multi-terminal and I want to get a lot of current through whatever, like, there's those big thick packs that have like the heat sink capability to the copper plane, whatever.
There's big
give me
D
this
packs
thing.
And
this is
I know. I love my little SO8 MOSFETs. They're really nice, And the good thing about them, and another, I think somebody might have asked this in one of the comments maybe, is why you would use an SO8 instead of like a D pack or something like that. One of the power packages. Why would you use this? One of the reasons is like it's just nice from that point of view, but as you mentioned, like just from a designer's,
I think desoldering is easier, honestly.
And desoldering and handling. We're just used to SO8s. Like we use SO8s everywhere because we use them for op amps and digital. Like we just use SO packages, right?
I mean, this is cranking some current, but I guess 10 up to 10 amps.
Well, 17 amps is pretty decent, but that's its maximum. You wouldn't be operating this thing at that sort of current. But anyway, one of the other advantages I mentioned to the commenter is that you can route traces under these suckers, right? Whereas if you've got a power package, no, it's taking up square area of your board, right? Because it's got that big thermal pad you've got to lay down, and you can't put traces under that, right? So if you don't need the power, like if you don't really care about the power, then you would use an SO8. You wouldn't use a D-pack or something like that because you just free up more room to route traces under the device.
Yeah. And sometimes you just don't have a choice, right? Your purchasing agent says you have to use this part, and you're like, okay,
maybe. Because they're using it elsewhere in the organization or something like that, Yeah. But and that could mean the difference between a 2-layer board and a 4-layer board, or a 4-layer board and a 6-layer board, or something like that.
That's a good point,
right?
Yep.
That could be the threshold difference. I've worked on designs where, oh God, no, I'm at my last handful of traces, and no, damn it, this is just not going to work, right? I'm going to have to go to an extra layer just because, geez, I wish this was a different package, so I could have, got this bus under there or something. I don't know. So it's just nightmare. Anyway,
I've been looking at P-channel MOSFETs myself for actually looking at. So I really like the ideal diode packages that are out there. They're insanely expensive, and they're meant for like cars and for basically when you're diode orienting things together. You could use an ideal diode. It's not a real thing. It's it's a marketing term.
But
basically, it's a P-channel FET and some control logic around it, and then you don't have a drop basically when you're trying to OR two supplies together. Awesome. And I've started doing a little bit of like preliminary like simulation and stuff like that. It's probably more finicky than I actually want, but let me tell you, if I had designed something in previously with an ideal diode, not only would it be $4 extra in the BOM for however many you want to put on there, they are pure unobtainium right now, and it's just like it's the only choice I
Wow.
have if I don't want to drop that 0.2 volts and up for
Yep. So is
to
it
a
a
Schottky.
single manufacturer? Are you locked into a single manufacturer, or is there at least some choice in the same package pin out?
There's some choice. I think it also depends like how fancy they get. So like some of them are like it's response time, and maybe there's multiples in a package, that sort of thing. So like LT
Right.
has a very good one. TI's got one. I think onsemi has one, but they're nowhere. They are ghost parts right now.
Right. Got it.
So and like you look at the actual like ideal diode circuit, and it's like, oh, it is just like a couple of NPNs and a P channel MOSFET and some resistors.
Mm-hmm.
Asterisks, like
Yeah, right, right.
we'll see how that
Yep.
works in practice over temperature. And so what you're really buying though
Yep.
is, and what I've gotten used to buying and maybe now reversing course on, is like you're buying someone testing that, and like it's
And
been
you're buying
characterized.
package convenience as well.
Yeah,
And you're
exactly. Oh
buying
man.
bomb convenience.
Yeah.
It's a single reel on your pick and place machine instead of 4 reels.
It's the TV dinner of the part world, It's just
Yeah.
like you just peel back
Yep.
the foil and it's there and ready to eat, It's
Yep.
just it's
Yep.
all good to go. So I will update on my escapades sooner or later, I'm thinking. I don't know if you've ever used those sort of things before, but sometimes you just can't give up the 0.2 volts.
No, it's yeah. Sometimes you
Yeah.
have to go for the obscure oddball part. And
Yep.
it's it absolutely bugs you, but like no, I can't design in 20 things around like actually do a discrete solution for it. If you find like an all-in-one solution for it, then yeah,
Yeah.
yep, that's a good
Right.
thing. But then again, I've very rarely been involved in extremely high volume stuff. So,
Yeah. Right.
yep.
I feel like that's a kind of a thing where I've had co-ops working for me before, or like younger engineers working with me, and they're like, I have this one part, and it's the only part in the world that will possibly ever work with this. I'm like, you may need we may need to go back and look at your assumptions and your requirements, and that part's $8, so no, we're not using it.
Yeah, right.
I'm
Yep.
sorry, that is not going to work for us here.
Yep.
But usually that is a good indicator if you're getting down to like that one part that keeps popping up on DigiKey or Mauser. Yeah, you might want to be looking at your requirements again.
Yep. But then again, yeah, I've often worked in the extreme opposite end where what that chip's $100. So what?
Sure.
No big deal.
Yeah, but
right?
that's like, if you're saying that about like, an undersea ADC or whatever you were doing for
Yep.
that in that case, that's a lot different than like, this is a power converter.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I need a 5-volt rail. It's like, okay,
Yep.
how many amps? Oh, 1,000 amps.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yep. What do we got on the list this week?
Not much, I gotta say. Not much
What?
at all.
Come on.
Well, I've been busy, Dave.
Well, I tell you what I've been trying to do. I've been
Sure,
trying
that's great.
because once again, it's to do with this bloody light, right? There's lots of spin-off things because this thing killed my batteries, right? Because the MOSFET was shorted, right? So it
Yeah.
deep discharged the batteries as I was actually plugging in, and they're giving out 0 volts now, right? They're an 8-volt dual cell lithium ion, Sony battery thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're giving out precisely 0 volts. And the reason they're giving out precisely 0 volts is not because it's entirely discharged, it's because the built-in circuit protection, there's almost certainly built-in circuit protection that is kicked in and actually disabled the cells. Now, whether that's an electronic MOSFET fuse type thing, or whether that is an actual like fuse inside that's actually now, gone and there's no way to do it. So, quite a few people in the comments said, why can't you rejuvenate the battery? So that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. So I'm up to day 3 and I'm currently staring at it, and I've got 8.4 volts going into it and only 3 milliamps. It hasn't changed at all. So the whole idea is that the cells inside are under the lockout voltage, the undervoltage lockout voltage of the protection circuit. So if the cells drop under, 2 volts per cell or something like that, it varies, right? But let's just say 2 volts or something per cell, then the low voltage underlock protection kicks in and totally disables those cells. So they cannot go to 0. And the theory is is that if you trickle charge them at a couple of milliamps, by that, I mean, you just put your regular 8 volts across, well, in this particular case, 8 volts across the 2-cell battery, and you leave it there for a long time.
Don't just up it to 10 volts. That's you're gonna have a bad time.
No, that's bad news. Yeah. So you can, if you don't know, a lithium-ion battery is charged at 4.2 volts, right? And it's got to be pretty precise, right? Yeah. Yes, right. It's got to be within like 0.5% or something, right? Yeah. It's pretty close, right?
I feel like that's always close. That's the other thing too, though, is that's the trickle voltage, right? Or no, is that right? That's as your current drops.
That's the constant voltage charge rate, because there's dual modes. There's a constant voltage charge mode, and then there's constant current after that that tapers off. Right. So it's a dual stage charging system. So this is constant voltage. So I've got it there, and it's drawing 3 milliamps, right? So there's 3 milliamps going into something, right? And the theory is that part of that something, of course, will be the protection circuit, but hopefully
Kirchhoff says, where is this going?
We just don't know, because it's a black box, unfortunately, unless it's an ultrasonically welded black box, so we don't know.
Yeah, right.
So I can't just take it apart and have a squiz
with magical fire bags inside.
Yeah. So, hopefully, like, there's a bit of charge going into the cells. And the whole idea is that if you leave it on there for a couple of days, you will trickle charge these cells. And eventually, because they're not actually completely destroyed cells, they will actually charge up above the under voltage lockout. And then, boom, it'll turn back on, and you've rejuvenated and you've recovered the cell, and Bob's your uncle, right? But
you taking bets on this?
No, I think this has a permanent. I think I'm going to have to get out the Dremel.
These are going to recycling.
Yeah, after I get the Dremel in there and take off actually have a look inside. And you can actually take them apart. See, if you can take them apart easily and you've got access to the individual cells, then you can rejuvenate and charge the individual cells, and then, hopefully the under voltage lockout comes back up. But a lot of these have like permanent E-fuses and stuff, like permanent fuses in them and if they blow, well, Mm-hmm. So, so it's not working yet. So everyone who wanted me to do that, well, I'm doing it, but it's not.
What you should do is take the battery outside and try, 8.5 volts, 8.6. See what happens. Roll them dice, Dave.
Did you see the slow-mo guys video? They just did one.
Oh, no.
Blowing up capacitors. They finally blew up capacitors.
Oh, very nice.
It's pretty glorious. It's pretty glorious. Like, because they've got the real shit, they've got the good stuff. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
But like, I don't know, some caps are catastrophic and some are just kind of like, I'm done.
Yeah, because they vent. Yeah. If you have the ones with the vent, then they're just going to vent out the top. That's their job, so they don't explode. But you do get some spectacular footage of, them venting out and stuff.
Got it.
Yeah, it's just like, and they've got one where they they had a water-filled balloon, and then they shot the capacitor at the water-filled balloon, and it looks like a planet, like what would happen, like when an asteroid would impact a planet. And you can see the ripples in like the water going across the planet, so to speak. Oh, it's pretty glorious footage they got. Absolutely fantastic. 180,000 frames a second, and
those guys are.
Yep, it's pretty good.
I haven't blown up a cap in a while.
I did a slow mo video way back in the old days. Video 50 or something. I don't know, but that was fun. But it's a bit cliche, isn't it? It's a bit like old hat cliche to blow up caps.
I mean, it's fine. I just mean like I've done it by accident. That's the only time I've ever done it.
Right. Okay.
And that hasn't happened in a while. So I think that means I'm not working on high voltage stuff very often these days.
It doesn't have to be high voltage. You just have to stick it in backwards.
Sure.
It isn't hard. Yeah. In fact, it doesn't take much at all. People think, you got to put 240 volts across them. No, if you just get a 16 volt cap and you put 20 volts across it, it'll just, the pressure will build up inside, and it'll just keep building and building and building. Of course, you've got to have like a high current power supply. That helps a lot too.
Got it. Yeah.
Yep. But it's but then again, small caps, you don't need much in the way of power to heat up the electrolyte inside and then boil it, and then all the pressure builds up, and then,
Yeah,
boomski.
right. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And just the cloud of plume that went everywhere. Oh, God. It's just, and that blowing capacitor smell. Oh, yep. Magic. Love it. Anyway, yeah, my battery's just sitting here doing nothing. Not getting into it, not getting out of it.
Yeah.
Yep. It's boring. Got to call it quits. Quite disappointed. Everyone got me all excited, hoping I can rejuvenate the battery. And it's like, nah, never works. Bloody Murphy. Anyway, all right. Floating solar farms. I know you wanted to talk about floating solar farms. Was it you who put it on here?
I did. When was that? Oh, yeah, that was a while ago. That was we didn't talk about that though, huh?
No, we didn't talk about that. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, interesting idea.
It is, but I can show you what happens if you haven't seen what happens.
Oh, I think you did mention. Oh, there's further down. No, there's a further down video.
Oh, is there?
The article.
Ah, right.
Yeah, in Japan.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, I haven't watched that. Oh, magic smoke. Yeah. Oh.
So anyways, floating solar farms are the idea is that if you're on top of a reservoir, you basically, much like, was that a Veritasium video as well about like the black balls in the LA reservoir to help shade the water, so you just cut down on
96 million black balls. Yeah,
that's right.
Shade
yeah,
balls.
Exactly. Yeah, shade balls. Yep. Yeah, and so that you shade the water, you also can get some cooling effects on the solar panels. There's ups and downs, and there's people.
Unfortunately, there's two problems with putting solar panels on water. Is A, things tend to move when they float. Just saying. Mm-hmm. You can have them crash into each other.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is what's obviously happened here.
Yeah, like during a windstorm or whatever.
Yeah, during a windstorm, waves,
it
get
up
or whatever.
Fixed position.
Yeah, no, it is not, anchored into the ground with big, metal stakes into the ground, right? Yeah. So, you tend to have a problem. You can come a guts that way. And I sent you a link. Oh, no, that wasn't the one covered in. No, I didn't send you the one covered in
like moss.
Bird poo, actually, because where you get big lakes, right? You get lots of aquatic birds,
avian,
yes,
spectators.
What are the words for water bird? Waterfowl, aquatic birds or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they tend to love to poop on these things, and
they're all perches, right? I mean, that's what it's all. Yeah,
they're all perches.
You got to do some kind of bird dispersal methods and stuff like that.
And it's just it is not a fundamentally good idea. I can understand why they're doing it, because the water helps to cool to keep the panels cool and stuff like that. And you're just wasting that land area, and not wasting, but that land area is otherwise not being used for anything else apart from the water. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense, but nah. One of the good uses I've seen is the water canals. I think this was in India, and they've covered their water canals with solar panels. And that's great, because that stops water evaporating. It stops the sun hitting. These are big concrete channels, right? Which, huge water, right? They don't use pipes because, I don't know, they're more expensive. I don't know. Anyway, these huge water canal things, and they aren't very wide. They're only 4 or 5 meters wide or something. So you can put, the structure of the solar panels over them, and you can anchor them into the ground either side, and they cover the trenches, and it helps shade them so you don't get the water evaporating from the trenches, and you get your solar power, and because it's not like a lake or anything, you don't get your water birdie, fowly things pooping all over them. Generally, that's right. It's great.
So my friend is in a group for a major U.S. city, and he's did exactly that in the U.S. as well. And I
saw there was one in the U.S. Which state is that? There is a state in the U.S. which are trialing.
I don't know if I can blow him in for what it is. So it's a major city in the U.S. But he did that same thing, and then they were, because it was a public works project too. They were able to just donate. They were doing it just to shade the water, and then they were able to donate the power to low income families too, which is
that's okay. That's it's cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Love it.
So
But
yeah, it's
yeah,
great.
nah, the floating panels on the water, that's more trouble than it's worth. I don't yet countries have done these on massive scale. They've done them on massive
Yeah,
scale.
I think this one was in a reservoir as well. It wasn't like it wasn't a natural waterway. It wasn't like a lake or something like that.
No,
But even
right.
still,
Okay.
like
Yep.
reservoirs kind of become these natural, man-made lakes
Yep.
effectively. So there's also that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems a very popular thing to do, but yeah, quite a few of them seem to have come a gutser in a big way.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They just all crash together and there's photos of,
Yeah.
of the,
This
like
is
thousands
this
of
is the
panels just
most
crushed.
Hackaday-y comments I had read in a while. There's a lot of angry people. So if you want to get back to the throwback to the grumpy old ways on Hackaday,
Oh yeah, okay, come on.
yeah,
Let
yeah, just the usual stuff. No need here. No need here.
Yeah, but what is the gist of the comments?
Oh,
Are there any Solar Roadways comments?
you're also no solar. Okay, no, it's more about like the sun is still like because there are fish in these reservoirs as well. It's hurting
Right.
that natural all that sort of stuff. So
Oh, okay, right.
it's always
Right.
going to be a balance of like
Yep.
unless you're putting solar like in the middle of the desert, and I guess desert ecosystems also have you know
Yep.
life out there, but yeah, there's always going to be some kind of environmental impact from
Yep.
putting a thing out there that's disrupting the natural flow of things. So
Well, there's this famous Elon Musk thing about, we can power the entire United States with, 10 square kilometers or something of solar panels. And
mm,
the common sense skeptic did a video running the numbers on that, which was a really
mm,
good video, actually, if you're interested in the numbers
mm,
behind that. In that, yeah, he wasn't quite on the money, but technically, in theory, you can power like an entire country with just like a small relatively small amount of solar panels. So if you ignore the
mm.
whole storage thing, right, let
Sure,
just
sure.
ignore that thing for a minute. It's like it doesn't work because transmission.
Yeah, they're doing like amount of sunlight hitting the ground, right?
Yeah, and well, no, and no, it's the transmission thing, right? You can't just whack it. Yeah, sure. Oh, I live in Australia here. We could just have a big solar farm in the middle of the country that powers the entire country. No worries, right? Yeah, we'll try and transport the energy that far. It's just it just you know it's just dumb. So yeah, it's a complete non-starter to think that you
Mm.
can, like just use one big central source and that's it. That's
Ah, I
why,
see. Yep.
yeah, it just doesn't work. And it's got nothing to do with solar. It's the same thing with nuclear, with anything else, right? Molten salt, anything, right?
Yep.
Geothermal
Yep.
stuff. It's like, yeah, Australia's got tons of geothermal, but it's in the middle of places where people don't live. So,
That's right. Yeah.
you've got to transport the energy. So, yep,
Grid stuff. Grid stuff's above my pay grade, man.
right.
Way above my pay grade.
But it's something you can run the numbers on, though. It isn't
Sure,
above your
sure,
pay
yeah.
grade. You can simply run the numbers,
No, you mean like
on
that.
transmission
I
losses and
meant the
stuff.
actual design and that sort of thing. Like
Oh, the grid infrastructure and
yeah,
stuff like
thinking
that.
through
Yeah,
actually
it's
how you
like,
build all
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff out and
yeah.
grid level projects and
Yeah.
just the voltages
We,
and
we we should actually try and get somebody on who is like in charge of like designing like a countrywide grid or something like someone who knows the ins and outs.
how could you even have like is there one person does the buck stop somewhere like
Well, right,
like
right. I
like
I
because
I
there's so
don't
many
know.
pieces of it, right? There's
Yeah,
the
there
people that are
is,
like
but
installing towers, there's all the people that are manufacturing all the various pieces, but like someone at some Vogon planning office in the middle of Beetlejuice 6 or wherever it is,
yep.
like that the plans are in the basement there.
You need to talk to the operators. Remember when we went to here in Australia, we went to the Canberra Deep Space Tracking
That's
Complex,
right. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yep, yep.
And we talked to NASCOM1 on Twitter, and he's great to follow, by the way. He's awesome.
Richard, right?
Richard, yes, he's
Yes.
one of the operators, right? And I've done videos, and he just knows everything. The people who
Yeah,
operate the
yeah.
systems know everything. So all you got to do is talk to an operator, I reckon, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know who would that be for power, Yeah.
Well, I've got one down the street here which operates the entire east coast of Australia, but I tried to get
Bingo.
in and talk to them and they wouldn't let me.
Oh,
bastards.
you mean this is an office? You don't have a contact. You need a
Oh,
you need a
no,
contact.
I don't. Yeah, I need an
Yeah,
actual
yeah.
technical person there who, there's
Tell
got to
me
be
we had
someone who
hundreds or
knows
thousands of
how
people
it all
listening
works.
right now that
You
could
know.
reach out. And
Yep.
actually, if we have if anyone's emailed us in the past, I don't know, 3 months, our feedback email has been broken. Apparently, we got ourselves onto some
Yeah,
blacklists.
that's right.
So we have not gotten your emails. It probably bounced back to you. We're sorry about that.
Yep.
It should work now. All it took was me changing the IP address of our entire web
Because we were on
infrastructure here.
some spam list somewhere. Because
Yeah,
we're hardcore
we're
spammers
spammers.
here at the
Yeah,
EV blog.
Cialis.
Yep.
Cialis.
So yeah,
I feel like that joke goes on deaf ears these days too. Like kids growing up these days, did they get the same kind of spam that we do? Like spam is just like so much less of an issue than it used to be.
I never had. Once I switched to Gmail, my spam problem just completely vanished.
I know, but like you had the before, right? We all got the before.
Yeah.
And people that are younger that are just like, yeah, I've had a Gmail address since I was in like middle school, and it's just like,
right, and it basically handles most of it for you. Yeah, handles almost all of it, except in the last 6 months, it just went completely to shit, and all my good email was getting spammed. But that I just tweeted yesterday that seems to be fixed now.
Oh,
somebody
great.
fixed it. Somebody realized, and they they reverted to the previous code on the GitHubs or something, and
that's what it is. Yeah,
they just reversed the changes.
Git reset -- hard.
Yeah, right. And I mean,
the email system is weird, man. It is just, I had to dig into it more than I ever wanted to, and I'm very bad at it. But man, like the way that like email servers talk to one another, it is a pile of spaghetti.
Right.
Anyways, our email works, and if you happen to be working in or around, or you know people in the power grid field, we'd love to talk to them. We want to interview them. So
yeah, that'd be great.
We have people listening, we think. So if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I know somebody, shoot us a note, please.
So what are we looking out of that? It's like, why are grids designed the way they do? How
why are grids?
How close do you need the power stations? Like, how all sorts of stuff. I'm sure there's a million trade-offs.
I would be interested, like how much of a slice do they see as well, right? Like if someone's working in I used to work for ABB, right? And I worked in the part that like designed the controller that went into the power
plant. For those
plant.
who don't know, ABB, Alan, they're a controls company. They make
Sia Brown Boveri. Yes, this is actually formerly Bailey Controls. That's where I used to work, and that was before I joined the supply frame crowd. And so I was working on stuff that went into power plants.
Yep.
And okay, but like there was no notion of like the actual output power. I never saw anything above 5 volts, like
right.
It was like logic level and like temperature sensing and like stuff that's just like around. And even then I didn't even, I wasn't there long enough to like see it all the way through. So like, that's like one small piece of a very large, complicated system. And that's still in the power plant. And then it gets stepped up and stepped up and stepped up and over these transmission lines and stepped down and stepped down. And like, there's all these, and it's somewhere there's like control nodes that are actually like rerouting stuff and bringing on new capabilities as needed.
Yep.
I don't know. It seems like we're just I'm way out of my element, I'll at least say. So, yeah.
Yep.
So that's some of the questions that it would just be.
It's great to get into, I think. It's we've mentioned this before.
Yeah. Yeah, when they talk about smart grid, what's the smart part?
Well, I suspect the smart part might be doing away with their job. Might be the smart part doing away with the operator. So it's
every time I hear about smart grids brought up a lot in like the IoT space, which I'm now adjacent to and in, and it's always like, well, the power company is going to send you, over your Wi-Fi, they're going to send you a packet that says, oh, now it's, power's cheap now, so turn on your stuff, and then it's going to control like at the
charge your electric
junction
card
box
now, and then stop quickly. I don't care if you have to go somewhere tomorrow. No, we're going to cut off your EV charger. It's like
it's probably going to be very inconvenient for people, but you might get a little cost reduction.
Yeah. Well, somebody emailed me the other day. I can't remember exact details, but it was something along the lines of, I think you're in Australia. They were trying to tell me that there was a government thing where the energy utilities could now shut off your power. Like they can remotely shut off your power via your smart meter. And I don't think that's actually possible. I don't think, why would anyone, well, I guess, there's people dumb enough to install these Wi-Fi light bulbs, right? So I guess there's people dumb enough to install a remotely connected thing that lets that lets the authorities disconnect your power.
Well, I think that if it was your meter though, usually you don't have control over it though. At your meter, that's like usually it's owned by the power company, right? It's like you
Yeah.
get everything past the meter, but because they're charging you for the power, they get everything to the meter and they own the meter. And that's usually like for
Yeah,
billing
but
and
they
things
can
like
like
that.
switch. That's right. They were saying they could switch off your solar. They could remotely switch off your
Oh,
solar system.
interesting.
It's like I don't know anyone who's got a solar inverter system installed that can be remotely switched off by the
Yeah.
energy authority. Like if you're dumb
Yeah.
enough to install one of those things, then
Yeah,
like,
right.
well,
Why wouldn't you
that's
just like not install that part, right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
just be like,
exactly.
okay,
Just not
oh,
install
you know what?
it.
I don't have my
Yeah,
Wi-Fi password, so I guess I can't hook into your
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
control
right.
system. My
And
B.
yeah, but they seem to think that this was a thing, and I went, I don't think so. I've never heard of it. So if you've heard of it, I don't know, leave it in the comments, please. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, and what is the incentive there too? Like
Oh,
that's
the incentive is to control the grid. Solar is a big in particular is a big problem because we've got a massive we've got one of the largest solar uptakes here
right.
in the world. Like something like 40% of houses in this country have solar on them, right?
Yeah.
And that causes problems on the grid. It means they can't manage the grid. It's pumping too much power into the grid at certain times of the day and the
Mm,
voltages go way above, it risks the voltages going above the compliant level and all sorts of things. So they, it's really becoming
yeah.
an actual problem. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Right. Yeah, and
yeah,
it's too bad like there's not like micro storage like, micro in quotes, right? But like on a neighborhood level, right? Because it would be nice if they're like, all right, we're not going to turn off your solar, but now you're feeding, so your solar is feeding, the sun is
yep.
shining very
You're,
brightly in
you're
Sydney.
feeding your neighbors. You're
Everybody's
trading with your neighbors. Yeah.
well, you're feeding your neighbors, but then like if there's still too much,
Yep.
like then you should be able to like just feed it into like a micro storage down the street instead of all the way back at the power station.
Yep. Exactly. And then you avoid all the transmission losses and everything else if you do everything locally. So somebody asked me,
Yeah.
like, does my EV, right? Because I've got now a smart EV charger that only charges my EV when the sun shines, right? So I can guarantee that all the solar power that I'm generating, and it's actually all the energy that goes into my car comes from the solar panels. And they're going, oh, but you can't guarantee that because how do you know? Like, it's just coming from the grid. But no, it's actually not. It's coming from the panels because it's all done before the metering. It's all done before the metering, and I can physically see that there's no energy coming in from the grid.
Yeah, right. Right. That's one thing it's very good at tracking, right? Is like
Yeah.
it knows which way the power's flowing.
Yes, it knows. I can physically see. I've got got a display that shows me that the energy going in and out of the grid, and I can see that no, nothing's being exported to the grid. It's all going into my car.
Yeah.
It's all being dumped. It's all being handled locally. So if you could do that
Yeah.
at a
Yeah.
street level, that'd be that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So
One thing I've been thinking about. So we had some ice storms, and now that I live in North Carolina, everybody freaked the f out. They were just like, quarter inch of snow. We're shutting down everything. The government shut down. The schools are shut down. It's all shutting down. And it was there, but nobody went anywhere. It was crazy. But
right,
I was like, okay, well, my power might shut off, and that sucks because that's like I've got electric water heater now, and just a lot
right,
more
yep,
electricity in my life than I used to when I lived in the wintry north.
yep.
What I was wondering though is like I do not have solar here, and I don't really hear about any like localized battery solutions, like home battery solutions. Usually I hear about them
Right.
to capture like solar, but you don't
Yep.
ever really hear about them in terms of just as a
As a grid,
backup. Yeah, grid backup
as
locally,
as a
right?
grid thing where you can just charge them up during the day at cheap power rates and use them at
Yeah.
night when it's expensive and stuff like
Right.
that. And
Right,
and
and,
and,
like
and that helps balance the grid and et cetera, et cetera.
right, and like I guess I mean electric car obviously would very much work in that way, but I do not have one of those, and the math
Yep.
would probably work out to just get one of those if that was the case, and it could feed back into my house when the power goes out. But like
Right.
I was thinking about like have you heard about that sort of thing? Is that a thing or no?
The just having battery for
Yeah, like just buying a power wall or just
no,
having a,
most
a
people
DIY
don't.
system.
No, most
Yeah.
people I know, they buy it because they have the solar and they want to store their excess solar. Here in Australia, you've got to have a smart meter to make that viable, right? So I don't have a smart meter. I've got a dumb meter. So there's no time of day tariff for me, right? So the power during the day costs me the same amount of power at night. If I wanted to take advantage of such a battery system without having, well, it makes no difference if you've got solar or not really. It's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to. I'd have to change over to a smart meter that gives me a different, like a cheaper rate during the day, so that then I could suck in the power from all my neighbors' solar panels, right, during the day when the power's cheap, and then I reuse that power at night when it's expensive. And that doesn't just help me; it doesn't just help the actual homeowner. That also helps the grid, because I talked about too much solar on the grid is a real problem for managing the grid. Like, they're having a hard time managing all this solar uptake. So if people were installing home battery systems, that actually helps, because that can absorb that.
Yeah, you'd think that would be like the next level of tariffs or whatever.
I think there are a few trials here where they have actually put street level grid storage there. There's a few trials going on, but yeah, I'm not aware of anyone like just making the conscious decision to do that.
Yeah,
and there's certainly no government incentives here to actually do that, and that's not the reason behind it.
Yeah, and you guys still are not getting the incentives on the cars either, which kind of stinks.
No, zero.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yep.
Man, if you watch I'm sure down under, because you guys use that term so much, I'm sure in your part of the world, you guys watch the Super Bowl, the U.S. football.
Oh, we totally watched the Super Bowl.
Yeah, everybody loves it.
Yeah.
But so I did watch some of it. I watched like a couple commercials. It was on in the background, and man, the amount of the demographics of the Super Bowl, like trucks. You're gonna see a lot of truck commercials.
Right.
But
okay. Yeah.
electric trucks, like, oh my goodness, like,
really, there was a lot, was it?
Oh, a lot. Yeah.
Right.
It was very encouraging. Like, it was great.
Right.
I was very happy about that. So bring it on, more electric trucks. If you're gonna buy trucks, make them electric.
Well, unfortunately, you can't buy a Tesla. Can you buy any electric truck in the US right now? Is there any electric car? Because the Cybertruck has been delayed. The Cybertruck, actually, Musk came out and said, basically, sorry guys, but we can't make it for the price that we promised.
Oh man,
he didn't exactly say that, but he said
all the stainless steels going to the spaceships,
right?
That blow up.
It was made out of stainless steel, was it?
No, I don't know. It looked the same. It had that silvery look to it. So
look.
Yeah.
Yep. And anyway, he said cost is a big issue.
I think you can buy. So the F-150 Lightning is, I think, available. I don't know if you can buy any cars right now just because of the chip shortage, but in theory, that's available right now.
Right.
Maybe it's a waiting list. I don't know. I think it's.
Well, he also made. Well, his tweet made the bold claim that if we can't do it, as in he means like a low cost EV truck, then nobody can do it.
That guy's so full of hot air. I'm so sick of the Muskie. I just shut him off. I don't follow him on Twitter. I can't do it.
But unfortunately, everyone does follow him, right? And that's the thing. He, influences markets. But
yeah, I mean, yes, I see your retweets of him. So yes, I do catch it. But it's get me off that crazy train as soon as like smart guy, has a lot of smart people working for him. But man, that guy is bananas. It's just not. I can't handle him. So. And the hero worship too. It's just a little, myself included, right?
Yeah,
it's just a little much.
Yep.
So.
Yep. But yeah, that's an interesting. Like, so do you know of an EV truck that's actually available from any manufacturer?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the F-150 Lightning is, but I don't know how to tell because I
can you actually buy it? Is it a?
I don't know. Starting spring 2022. So maybe not.
It's not actually. So it's announced, but it's not. It hasn't shipped yet.
I'm also being targeted by my local Ford dealer. I'm really worried if no, this is Cerritos, California. Never mind. It's just like you start searching. Like I'm gonna get so many ads now for just buy a truck.
Yep.
Like when someone searches buy truck in Google, they probably get targeted with ads for the rest of their life. Like, oh, but you wanted a truck in March of 2022. Surely you still do in 2038, even though the world's on fire.
Yep.
we can make money off of you.
Oh boy. Yep.
Yeah.
So funny.
I don't know. There are. Let's see. My one of my new neighbors, he has a plug-in hybrid that's not a truck though. I think it's an SUV. So there's a lot of SUVs that are out now that are hybrids or
hybrids are
electrics.
meh. Hybrids are meh.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. Dave, I try.
Yeah, okay.
You know how much I drive per week? It's a crazy week when Chris drives to the grocery store and back.
Right.
Like I'm clocking in at less than like 500 miles a year.
Right. Okay. What, just wait until the kids go to school.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That'll change things.
Yep.
That'll change things. Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, that's the same for us. Almost all of our running around is the kids.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yep.
I'm sure by the time my daughter is grown up, I'll just put her in a self-driving Uber, right? That'll just help me how that goes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just poking the bear here, folks.
Should we update our predictions on full self-driving?
Oh, yeah, it's not looking good.
No. It's shit house.
No, it's still getting better.
Yeah,
I know. But I think the vision stuff is getting better. I just, like the one thing I think about with all this stuff is I don't know if you've looked at like the hiring market. It is so incredibly hard to hire people, like, and just especially at the high end. So
right.
I know people in the hardware and firmware space, and I'm trying to hire people in that space, and like it's just there's a lot of roles there, but then you zoom out a little bit. You go on you go on the Hacker News Who's Hiring page. So I don't know if you know this is have you ever seen this thing or no?
I haven't.
It's like the first of the month, every month, Hacker News has a thread, and it's just who's hiring and all it. And so usually it's engineers at a company will post about who they want to work with, or that they're hiring. So
so the companies know about this, and the companies actually post on their direct, do they?
That's right. And recruiters know about it now too, and it's there's still the social. Yeah. But I think, because it's social and because it can get downloaded if it's super spammy or whatever, it's still okay. And,
hang on. I like that idea that it can get down. If you're a dickhead bloody recruitment agenccy who's just like a bunch of wankers, and you get downvoted into oblivion. Right, I really like that idea.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we're gonna have to participate in that just for the kicks.
How would you participate though? You're not.
I don't know. I'd be
downvoting.
Could be a user. I could downvote.
Got it.
Geez,
yes,
that'd be so satisfying. Recruitment agent. People. Obviously, our audience know we're not fans of recruitment companies.
That's right. Yeah.
Here at the Amp Hour.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been kind of like that. So I don't know, people that are in the hardware firmware space, I've been a lot of newsletters are good about this stuff. So there's The Prepared has a good newsletter, and Analog.io is a new newsletter that's out there. Jack Gansel's newsletter. They all have job posting areas in there.
Oh, I didn't know
Jack's one had. Yeah, Jack's has always been free. It's always been keep it low word count. It's just a great way for people that are people that are there are very few marketing executives that are reading Jack Gansel's newsletter.
Right.
In fact, I'm continuously impressed by the variety of people that he gets responding to his newsletter, because then he'll republish. And if you're not reading his newsletter, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites. It's called The Embedded Muse. I'll link it in. But yeah, it's got a job section too, and it's usually pretty low key. It's just here's the job. Come check us out, because usually
I would bury it in a random location within the thing each time, so that the recruitment agencies, because they're their eyes would roll over if they start seeing technical articles.
Oh, I see.
So they, just bury it. Don't make it easy for them to,
Got it. Yeah. I mean, well, then in that case, a lot of these newsletters too, there's a filtration mechanism that is a human, right? And so usually when you have marketplace systems like a Hacker News or here's an old reference, a monster.com or an indeed.com, monster.com. Remember them, Dave? Remember their Super Bowl ads?
No. Sorry.
I know you don't.
Right.
They were, yeah. That was the first .com crash.
Oh, really?
There's how old I am. Yeah. Right. Remember the early 2000s? Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, I know you do. You don't remember the Super Bowl ads from the early 2000s and the late 90s.
I hate to break it to you, Chris, but there is
you're not American. I know.
There's a whole world out there outside of America.
Dave. I have to imagine that when the Aussie Rules football is on, there's also expensive ads running against that. Just probably not as expensive.
No, but we don't. Yeah, but we don't obsess over them. It's we don't go,
Sure.
oh, the ads are coming on. No, we just go to the freaking dunny. We
It's
don't
great.
care
It's
about
great.
the ads, right? Yes,
Right, but
they do
it's
pay
become this
more.
cultural thing. It's this cultural
Yeah,
thing. It's
no,
not,
we don't
right.
have the cultural thing in regards
Yeah,
to
yeah.
ads during a major,
It's become its own
thing.
thing, So
Right.
yeah. I don't. I'm not, for or against it. I would not pay $7 million for 30 seconds of an ad, if you
Right.
ask me.
Yep.
Nor would I put up a QR code. I'm sure you saw this story. Come on.
I've seen the stories.
One of the
It's hard not to.
crypto
Yeah, I know. One
sites,
of the
they put up
cryptos, a floating
yeah,
barcode or something. Yeah.
floating QR
Yep.
code. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some old news. We're now like 3 weeks past it, but anywho,
You've got a segue, haven't you?
no, not really. Just there's
I
filtration
do.
on a lot of these sites. I think it's good to, so if people are looking, we're coming out of the great resignation or whatever they're calling this epoch that we're in, and as people are starting to look,
I thought it just started.
maybe who knows, man.
All right.
We're
Anyway,
we're living in some weird times,
dude. You
Okay,
don't know what the segue is. You
I'm not
put it
looking
on
at
the
the
list
tab.
yourself. It's at number 1. It's got 11 votes. Google mandates workers go back to Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Okay, let me start again. All right. So, speaking of jobs, I bet some Googlers will be looking for some new jobs soon when they're forced to go back into the office. Haha, suckers! Enjoy that in your $600,000 salary.
It just
Do you
blows.
know how much
Sorry,
software engineers get paid, Dave? Do you know how much software engineers get paid? It is insane.
I know. That
Insane.
it blows my mind. I don't think you could get a $600,000 job here in Australia. The tech industry.
So to be fair, it's not a $600,000 salary, right? Usually it's like $180,000, and then like RSUs that are worth
what's an RSU?
Stock options, some type of stock option that basically it's equivalent stock that you can cash in at some point that's worth like a buttload of money. And
is there a threshold for that? Like the share price has to the company has to make a limit? Because I got bloody share options that we actually call them share options here in Australia.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, and they associate it with a price target. So when I was working at Altium, the share price was 10 cents, right?
Yeah.
It was $5, and then during the tech boom, and then it went down 10 cents because they didn't want to make a profit. They just didn't want to run as a hobby business. Anyway, 10 cents, and so we all got these share option. We go great, and we read it and says, well, the share exercise option, it's called, the share exercise price is $1. Mm-hmm. So it's only if the share price gets up to $1 can you actually like sell them. Right? Can you actually buy in?
Well, you can sell them for loss if you wanted to, if you wanted the stock for some reason.
Oh, it's just no.
You may be able to take a write-off on that, I guess. I don't know how that would work.
It's just no, I don't even think you can do that. So you can't even get a tax advantage that way.
That is not common. I have not seen a...
Okay, well, that's a thing here.
I think it's because at Altium, it was the strike price was set before the drop happened, right? So that is what happens when the market goes down.
No.
Most of the time.
No, it wasn't set then. It was set when it was 10 cents.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I've never heard of that before. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I have no idea what it is. Usually, though, the RSUs that like a software engineer will get, and I'm sure I'm saying this wrong too, you're going to make a buttload of money on it, right? It's like you have some strike price that's much below what the, so if you're a Googler and the share price.
So you can buy them at $5, but the current share market price is $10. Like so you can buy them instantly at $5 and then instantly go sell them for 10. Right,
and the other thing that happens is, so like if usually there's like a vesting plan for that sort of thing. So like a common thing for options generally is like a 1-year cliff so that you don't get any of it for the first year. Right?
Of course.
So if you have to stay for 1 year to get the first 25%.
You're right.
And then,
and then it's scaled after that.
Yeah. Right. So then if you stay for 2 years, you get 50% of that grant. If you stay for 3, 75, 4, all of it.
Apple back in the day, this is some computer history for you. Apple back in the day used to have these T-shirts. This is when Apple floated on the stock market, and it was the biggest float in American history, right? Everyone went around with these T-shirts that FUIFV. These are letters, and it stood for FU. I'm fully vested. And everyone walked around with these T-shirts saying "FU, I'm fully vested." Like it's like
You mean when they were going public? That's what that.
I'm sure that wasn't on. I'm surprised that wasn't on like Silicon Valley or one of those shows.
Yeah, well, there's rest invest jokes and stuff like that's the same kind of thing, right? So someone who they're waiting for their stuff to become vested, so they just
Right.
wait it out.
Yeah,
This is all.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, anyways, a lot of what these salaries are is like these RSUs, and you get some every year, and then you can they're just like this salary add-on. But the thing is, so say you were, the $5 strike price and $10, you might be able to sell it for $10 on the first day, or like after the 1 year mark. Well,
Yep.
stock prices tend to go up too, so like they're worth even more if you hold
Right.
on to them.
Yep.
And so it's just like this paper money that's worth a buttload of money. It's just like
Yep.
it's insane. And so yeah, what would be interesting is when all these Googlers have to go back to the office, how much do they like working from home? We'll see. Do
Yeah.
they like it? I don't know, $450,000 difference? Maybe.
But I suspect if they're fully vested, there's a lot of them that are going to go, nah, see ya.
Yeah, they might just be like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
do that startup I wanted to work on, or
Yep.
I'm just gonna
They're
retire
gone.
for a while, or yeah,
Yep.
totally. Yeah.
Mm.
Google money. Fang, or formerly known as Fang, now known as Manga.
Okay, what's Manga? Microsoft.
Nope. Wait, is it
Microsoft, Apple. Manga.
Manga.
That would be Microsoft, Apple.
Oh, Microsoft's not it.
Netflix.
No, because Fang was never in Microsoft. It should be, but it's not in there.
Oh,
Fang was Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google.
Who does the M stand for then? In Manga.
It stands for Facebook now because they changed to Meta.
Meta. Oh, Meta. Oh,
yeah,
God.
and Google became, and actually it's like Google actually became Alphabet. So I don't even think Mango works anymore. It doesn't matter. It's stupid. But Fang is if you see Fang with 2 A's, that's usually referring to these large tech companies with large stock grants and people getting paid a lot of money. And if you're listening to me right now and you're thinking, oh, Chris, I hate you. I'm working at these companies. And I'm like, well, go cry in your piles of money. Yeah. Hardware engineers don't get paid like that. I have theories about this too.
Okay.
One of the things is, I think, so obviously I think the scale difference of like hyperscale engineers is what Google engineers are called, because you go work on Google Maps and it touches you could have a team of 300 people that might serve 5 billion people, in the world, or whatever the actual users. And just like the scale difference is like that. Whereas if you or I design a circuit board,
that is called revenue per employee. There's a term for it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a specific industry term. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, and I think revenue per employee is one thing. That's obviously going to impact things.
I think at one stage the biggest revenue per employee company was Norton. Or was
Norton?
It? Or was
Holy
it?
crap, Dave!
Or was it John?
Throwback.
Or was it John McAfee? It might have been McAfee Antivirus or something. It was one of those two. I think they were the greatest revenue per employee. It was like $10 million revenue per employee or something. It was enormous, right? Yeah. So this is a financial metric that's actually used in the industry. So
yeah, that's one thing. I think another thing is just, how hard is it to get labor, right? Especially like super skilled labor, right? Some of this stuff is very, if you're a DevOps engineer for a hyperscale company like Google, it's like, yeah, okay, there are a finite number of people in the world that can do that kind of thing. Right. And it's high pressure. Okay, fine. But then I have a theory as well. Like the closer you are to the sale of a thing, I think the more you can make. So I think that really goes against hardware engineers, right?
Potentially.
Because you think about a sales engineer, right? So someone who's a salesperson.
Yeah, of course.
You can basically say, hey, I got us another $1 million of business.
Yeah.
All I want is 3% of that as my bonus, right?
It's like, oh yeah,
tangible. You got us all that business.
Yeah, it's tangible.
Right.
You can,
Right. Whereas how do you or I as hardware engineers do that sort of thing? It's like, well, I combine, here's a little throwback. I reused a MOSFET and I was able to save us 10 cents per board. And so that obviously helped our margin on this on this one product that we sell out of 20. It's like, oh, okay.
And that's at Altium. How they handled the bonuses at Altium was that everyone would get a fixed percentage, right? So everyone would get the same amount, but then you would get another 50%. So, no, sorry, half of it, everyone would get the same. And then the other half would be scaled based on your salary and your role and stuff. Yeah. So it was like, it wasn't
pretty
good. It was sort of like half pizza kind of thing.
You know what? I bet you still didn't touch what the salespeople were getting though. Like salespeople just get
probably
crazy.
Not. No.
Yeah, they get crazy bonuses. And, percentages.
I've also got a theory about this. Is that that obviously matters. I know for a fact that matters. But hardware engineers actually come with a lot more inherent cost to the company because they've
True,
got to not only spend money on the wages, right, but they've got to spend money on the hardware that they're actually designing and building, right? That could easily double or triple someone's salary, right? Whereas a software engineer, like there is literally, there's not. I'm not going to say there's not any other cost because you got to buy
snacks.
there's snacks and you got to buy them
snacks.
pizza and they've got to buy them
Bubbly
multiple
water.
monitors and you've
Diet
got
Coke.
computers and mainframe, right? But that's
Regular
the same for
Coke.
almost every employee. Whereas hardware engineers have very specific requirements. Like I could tell you how much just our little tiny hardware group spent on prototype PCBs in a year. You'd be shocked. Right?
Give it. Come on. What is it?
No, I'm not going to give it.
Come on.
It's, I'm not going to give it publicly.
Why not?
Let's just say that you could hire a couple
like 20
of
years ago.
Right? you could hire a couple of hardware engineers for the cost of just prototyping boards, right?
Oh, that's impressive. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay. It's serious
Junior
money.
Junior employees or like
oh well,
employees?
but let's just say that you could at least hire one,
right.
and you could hire an extra engineer for the cost of,
Sure. All right.
Just simply prototype boards, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Blank boards. I'm not even talking parts.
I get it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not even talking. Yeah.
Bananas.
Right. It's nuts. So I think that plays a role in it too. But that's to a manager. That's not what.
Hey Dave, you remember when we could buy parts?
Yeah. I'm pretty old,
I don't remember these days. It was just nostalgia. That was nostalgia kicking in, bubblegum tap shoes and all that. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. So I don't know. Leave it in the comments. Is your company mandating that you've got to come back to work and are you going to tell them to stick it?
Yeah.
Because I reckon there's going to be quite a surprising percentage of people who will tell them to stick it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it will be.
Speaking of the Great Resignation, there's a video out. Was it a Wendover one or one of the major YouTubers just did a video, which I haven't. Fusion. Fusion. What's his name?
No.
His name's Tagago or somebody. Fusion TV, Cold Fusion TV. I think just did a video on that, which I haven't watched yet. So and his videos are usually very good in sort of the Wendover Productions style.
Oh, okay. I'd probably like that.
Yeah. So I'll link that in. Cold Fusion. I'll dig it up.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the structure for hardware engineers right now too, though, like the ones who are, I don't know, a lot of them are probably already going to the office. Like just thinking about the shared cost of hardware and like labs and stuff like that. I haven't heard about as many hardware engineers going remote as other, like there's still usually some tie back to an office or a manufacturing space or something like that. So I don't think it'll be as big of a step change.
Yeah, because, at any reasonable size company, you're going to have a pretty good lab that you're not going to have at home, right?
Exactly.
It's
right,
yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from people. We'd love to hear from people generally, especially now that we have an email address that works again. So shoot us an email. If that doesn't work, theamphour@gmail.com also always pretty much works, regardless of Chris's
actually best to leave a comment down below, so rather than email us directly with your thoughts, because then other people can see it and comment on your comment.
We do have a comment section. Who knew?
Yes, we do.
Who knew?
Yeah.
We also have Twitter. We have Patreon if people want to be on there.
Yep. Yeah.
Definitely be on Patreon.
I don't think we ever mentioned that, do we? No.
Once in a while. Yeah.
Anyway, that's all we got for this week.
I quit for this episode.
I quit for this episode. Damn it. We're not going back into the office, Chris. I refuse to go back into the Amp Hour corporate headquarters.
That's right. Ain't that the truth?
Catch you next time.